Wow.
To celebrate our second year of Good Times with Bad Movies, we asked our celebrity friends to say a few words on Steven Seagal.
And he's like kind of fat for a muscle guy.
Yeah.
He's got very big wrists, so.
I mean, what I really want to say is how big and fat he is and how he runs like a bitch.
I know he dyed his hair. Stevie Wonder.
I will slap him, pop, 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 pop in the face, grab his ponytail, maybe a headbutt here and there, and then fold him up.
I had to make him crap his pants a second time.
Welcome to another episode of Good Times with Bad Movies. I'm Paul Ireland. Joining me as always is my lovely, talented, fantastic co-host, Tim, the Black Belt Morrison. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Paul. I'm great. Yeah, I'm a black belt. And I'm a cook. Black belt cook.
Yeah. Tim is a legit cook. That's right, folks. That's right. And it's, you know what? This is a special occasion because I'm sure a lot of people don't know, but this is actually Good Times with Bad Movies 2-year anniversary. So, Tim, first of all, a quick round of applause here. Thank you. Congratulations, Tim. Yeah, that's awesome, right? We did it. 2 full years of Good Times with Bad Movies. It's amazing.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, this is really fun. And we're actually going to celebrate today with a movie that we have actually tried to sit down and record now. I think Tim and I have we agreed upon this here, where it's been about 4 times we've tried to record an episode of this movie here. So today is the day we're going to break the curse on our 2-year anniversary, and we're going to sit down and talk about 1992's Under Siege from Warner Brothers Pictures.
Yeah, starring Steven Seagal. Yeah, this one was suggested by one of my friends, Jonathan. Like, I think when we first started this podcast, in fact, the very first time that we attempted to record an episode for this movie, this was like probably would have been our 3rd or 4th episode. So the first time we tried, it didn't work. We had technical difficulties. The second time, technical difficulties. Third, technical difficulties. So the 4th time, this is the one that it's going to do it. This is the one that's going to work. So Paul and I have probably both, cumulatively between both of us, have watched this movie approximately 10 to 14 times.
Yeah, way too many times in the last 3 years. I've seen this movie probably 6-7 times now. It's a lot of Steven Seagal. It's too much. Oh, and Gary Busey. There's a lot of Gary Busey in this movie.
So we have 2 reoccurring actors from previous episodes and movies that we've done. In Gary Busey and Tommy Lee Jones. From Gary Busey was in Rookie of the Year, and Tommy Lee Jones was in, he was Two-Face in Batman Forever.
Yeah, he is just chewing up the scenery in this one, honestly. There's a couple of spots I can't wait to get to because he just lets loose. It's so fun. But it's even crazier because Gary Busey also has some moments in here that we're going to see that he just, he shines only like Gary Busey could.
Yes, he goes Gary.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it is. So before we get too excited and we get too into the whole Steven Seagal thing, maybe we should hit everybody up with a quick synopsis here. So this movie is about a disgruntled former CIA operative and his group of terrorists who commandeer a nuclear battleship. Standing in their way is one tough cook.
Think Die Hard on a boat.
I think that's what a lot of people would compare it to. And it's not a bad comparison. This is, if I've done my homework correctly, this is like Steven Seagal's first real big push into the A-list stardom here. They're like, this is his first big movie they're going to give him with a good supporting cast to be like, hey, this dude, Steven Seagal, who kicks ass, he can also kind of act and you guys should like him. But I don't know. And I feel like, again, just after this, he almost went into obscurity. It was like, didn't hear about him again. And then now he's apparently hanging out with Putin and whatever else.
Yeah, so he is a spokesperson for Russia in for their invasion in Ukraine, that's just amazing. Why Steven Seagal? I feel like that's the equivalent of Dennis Rodman going and hanging out with Kim Jong-un.
Yep. Yeah.
Why?
I think we have a couple stories of Steven Seagal. Maybe we'll get to it in the podcast. Maybe we'll get to it later. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see how much time we have here. Yeah, Steven Seagal is a legend. There's legendary stories of just how ridiculous he is behind the scenes of the majority of his movies, and generally anybody who he encounters.
Yeah, and he also seems like he's a bit of a legend in his own mind, just as an outside observer on that.
Yeah, we should definitely preface this. In case nobody knows, Steven Seagal thinks that Steven Seagal is absolutely amazing.
But anyways, we should get into the movie, Tim. What do you think?
Are you ready to start this revolution?
Don't sink my battleship.
So this movie starts out with some wide shots, probably from a helicopter, circling around some Navy battleships, specifically the USS Missouri, which is actually a defunct battleship in the U.S. I believe it sits in Pearl Harbor now. But on a side note, this ship is where the music video for "If I Could Turn Back Time" by Cher was filmed.
Was it really?
Yes, it's on this same boat when Cher's dancing around for all those all the Navy men.
Could you imagine Seagal in that little sequin kind of suit and he's just hanging on the cannon?
If I could turn back time. So right off the bat, we are introduced to Ryback, played by Steven Seagal.
He's just a cook. Casey Ryback, just a cook.
Steven Seagal is just a cook. And that's what they would have you believe so far.
Just a real quick question, Tim. Do they ever explain, or is there a reason why Steven Seagal just kind of whispers and mumbles?
I think it's because he's just so cool.
Okay. Oh.
It's a way of speaking that shows no weakness in his mind, I think. Like, I think it sounds almost emotionless, and it sounds really intense.
Yeah, that's fair. I just found like in this movie, it was really hard to hear what was going on sometimes. And the only way I feel like to experience the dialogue with Seagal is subtitles, because he just mumbles a lot in this movie.
So we're introduced to three characters here at the very beginning. The cook, Ryback, Steven Seagal, and Gary Busey, where he is playing Commander Krill, a high-ranking officer on this boat, and this captain. I don't know who he's played by. It doesn't matter. But the captain has requested a special meal and basically gives the orders for Ryback to go and cook this food. Gary Busey kind of doesn't appreciate Ryback. They seem to have some kind of a feud. They don't really go into it, but they don't like each other. And Gary Busey thinks that it's a joke that Ryback here is even on this ship as a cook. And we find out that the captain of this boat has personally requested Steven Seagal be the cook. And Gary Busey's like, this guy has way too much attitude. Why do you even put up with him? And the commander's like, just mind your own manners, Krill. There's a lot to do going on here because the USS Missouri is being decommissioned, and as well as the torpedoes, the nuclear torpedoes that it's carrying. And I guess this is its last sail. And they're going to meet the President of the United States, George Bush Sr., because this movie was in the early 90s.
In and amongst, the president showing up here and everything, we're also going to meet the guys in the kitchen who Steven Seagal works with, a.k.a. the Kitchen Boys. That's what I call them in this movie, folks, the Kitchen Boys. And in and amongst the Kitchen Boys, Tim, I don't know if you noticed, but Tuco Salamanca from Breaking Bad, way back in the day before he was dealing meth and had those silver teeth, he was in the kitchen here with Steven Seagal.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. It actually took me, I didn't realize it was him until, later on in the movie for some reason, because he doesn't look the same at all. I think, I assume that his tattoos are real by the time he's playing the character of Tuco Salamanca in Breaking Bad. But in this one, he has no tattoos, and he's way smaller.
It's all baby-faced.
Yeah, he's a baby-faced Tuco.
Little Tuke before we start doing meth. Meth ages you hard. That's what that is.
So this is a happy crew, and they just love Steven Seagal. He's the head cook, and everybody else is super happy, and they're dancing to "I've Got the Power," dan I've got the power. Yeah, and they're having a dance off here.
It's just really cringe, this little dance off thing that's going on here. The whole camaraderie with the Kitchen Boys, that's why I like them in this movie, because it feels like all the guys that are the actors, the extras in the movie, the Kitchen Boys, like Tuco, those guys are all bonded and they all seem like they're cool and have fun. And then just Steven Seagal comes in and they're like, pretend to like him. And everyone has to just acknowledge how awesome he is. That is what the whole vibe I feel for this movie.
The other thing is too, Steven Seagal is rude to every ranking officer except for the commander of the captain of the boat.
Yeah, Well, we're gonna find out later. He's got a particular set of skills, so maybe he just feels that he's above everybody, you know?
So we find out here that there is a special celebration planned for the captain of this boat, where I guess the boat's retiring. Potentially the captain is too, or something. I don't know.
It's his birthday.
It's his. Oh yeah, okay. It's his birthday. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, it's his birthday. So they're planning a special surprise, and they want Steven Seagal to keep his mouth shut about it. But Steven Seagal says, "I don't like surprises. I'm the only one who cooks for the captain." So he eventually says, "Okay, we'll see what the captain says then," which kind of, I feel like that's spoiling the surprise a little bit. So Gary Busey goes upstairs to the captain's room, the captain's bunkhouse or whatever. And I guess he was called up there because the captain got wind that they have a helicopter coming onto the boat that's due to arrive soon. And this wasn't cleared with the captain. And Gary Busey explains, well, I didn't want to spoil this, but there's a surprise since it's your birthday tonight. And we've got a crew of people coming in that are going to cook some fine meals for the entire staff. Gary Busey's like, okay, cool. So if you're okay with that, we'd just like you to maybe stay around in your room and act surprised so that, nobody knows that it's already spoiled. And he's like, okay. And now we are introduced to the helicopter and its occupants. We have 1989 Miss July, whom was actually the Miss July in Playboy in 1989. And we have a band and I guess a catering crew. And the band is led by lead singer, rock star, Tommy Lee Jones. And he's dressed like Mick Jagger, kind of. I don't know. Like he has like a leather jacket and a bandana around his head, aviator sunglasses. And man, he is really hopped up and energetic to perform for this crew.
I really think in this movie, it feels like Tommy Lee Jones kind of went to the director and was like, look, it's me and Gary Busey. All right. Those are your actors. So I call the shots on what I'm doing here. And the director said, okay, you're Tommy Lee Jones and it's 1992 and I have to just say, okay. So, I mean, just his whole costume here, we're gonna see, he's got two little crosses on and stuff and like the leather jacket, like you said, and a tie-dye shirt. Like it's dressed kind of like Madonna a little bit here. I don't know. This is like, if this is what Tommy Lee Jones thought was cool in 1992. That's what I feel like this was, Tim Allen was popular. Stevie Ray Vaughan, everyone was listening to that. This is what he was like, all right, this is what I'm going to be doing. So Gary Busey, he's gotten wind now from his boy that Steven Seagal isn't leaving the kitchen. And he's just saying, screw you. So he comes down with his goons and he opens up Steven Seagal's pot of soup there, and it's really disgusting. He just hawks a dirty old loogie right in there. It's really gross. Being Steven Seagal, he doesn't take that. Just drops him. Sends him right over the table. All of the guys get up. They grab Steven Seagal, and they arrest him. And now they're going to throw him in a freezer, I guess. And they've locked him in a freezer now, like an industrial freezer that I think you would probably get hypothermia in if you stayed in there for multiple hours.
Yeah. And Steven Seagal beat up quite a few of these other officers too before they managed to subdue him and throw him in the meat locker.
Well, you know what? That's the thing is they didn't really even subdue him if you look, because like he beats them up and then he kind of stops and he gives up and he's like, okay, no more violence, guys. Like, like he's being the good guy.
They didn't overpower him.
Yes. There we go. There's just like the start of Steven Seagal's ego peaking in this movie here.
Nobody spits in my soup.
He does have, I give it to him. There's a couple funny lines that Steven Seagal has in this movie, okay? Even though he's kind of a robot and he's Steven Seagal, there's some funny lines. Every time I see Steven Seagal in a movie, I honestly just think of Will Sasso in those Mad TV skits.
You know what I just realized, like while I was just doing this Steven Seagal voice? I think that Steven Seagal he's purposely going for Dirty Harry.
Wow. You might be right. He's doing Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, I think he's doing Clint Eastwood, but in Dirty Harry.
Make my day, spit my soup.
Yeah, I think that's what he's going for. So there we go. Steven Seagal is stuck in a meat locker. So while Steven Seagal is locked away, Miss July arrives on the boat, as well as the catering crew and Tommy Lee Jones' band. And Miss July has a little bit of helicopter flying sickness, I guess. She's dizzy and feeling nauseous. So Gary Busey gives her some pills and says that this will make you feel better. And he actually like empties out like a whole bunch, like a handful of pills. He's like, here, just take these and go in this room. So she takes those, and we'll just say she's gone for a bit. And Tommy Lee Jones is getting ready to set up for the band to play for the Navy here. And I guess they're getting set up in the rec hall. Like, it's a very, very busy place. While that's going on, there's a guy that's supposed to be guarding Steven Seagal, and he was given strict orders not to talk to Steven Seagal. And Steven Seagal is just constantly yakking at him through the meat locker door. And he's like, come on, man. You know this was wrong. The captain couldn't have approved these orders. And the guy's like, I'm not supposed to be talking to you. I don't know what to do right now.
It's just like, if you don't know what to do, it's like you just stuck a guy in an industrial fridge. Do you think that's fair? You know, if the guy's really under arrest, maybe you actually call for somebody to like put him in handcuffs.
Yeah, I feel like the Navy probably take protocol very seriously. And I don't believe that chucking one of your officers or anybody, it's probably a very last resort to throw somebody in a meat locker.
You know, though, I love though, because he's shouting lines at he's shouting lines at this kid, and I love the one line because he's always telling him about he's asking him to take the pies out of the oven. So like, take my pies out of the oven.
Yeah,
take them out.
They're gonna burn.
And I just thought it was really funny that he was obsessed with these pies. But now that I look at Steven Seagal, I'm like, this starts to make sense. What's going on there? You know?
Oh, you're saying that Steven Seagal really likes pie? a lot?
Yeah. Current day Steven Seagal, you could say definitely likes pie.
I don't think he probably. It seemed, maybe he got his first taste of pie while making this movie, and since then he's just been eating the pie.
This is going weird, but yeah, like just food in general. Yeah, definitely.
This sounds like an innuendo. That's not meant to be the case at all.
Okay, wait. This is a great segue, Tim. This is a great segue into a Steven Seagal story here. Okay, because when we were doing a little bit of quick research on Steven Seagal, I found out Steven Seagal has done, I guess, like a reggae track. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
With Lady Saw, and I'm pretty sure the song's called something like "Me Want the Punani." Okay, so you might be onto something with the whole pie stuff. Is all I'm saying.
He plays guitar and sings. It's crazy.
I listen to it. I'm like, that's a Steven Seagal voice. It sounds like someone just kind of sliced it in there, and there's a lot of auto tune. Maybe he really sang it, but it's it's Steven Seagal.
All right, back to this. We're going to stay on track. So, now, the party has begun. It's decorated. This catering crew that has come on board, they have made tons of food in what seems like 25 minutes. But they have made tons and tons of food. And Tommy Lee Jones is rocking out. He is singing. Mary Had a Little Lamb. And everybody's jumping. It's like a little bit of a rockabilly version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And he introduces Miss July, and out through the doors comes Gary Busey. Gary Busey is wearing a long wig and lipstick, and obviously has giant balloons shoved up under this blouse and dress. And he is just hamming it up as like what a joke this is, and talking like a girl's voice and dancing around and caressing the men's face and stuff, and everybody loves it. And Gary Busey loves it too, and I'll tell you, this came out of left field. It's just really funny because you wouldn't expect a high-ranking officer to just randomly abandon their responsibilities like on such a day like this to dress in drag for the entertainment of your subordinates. and And so as he's going out, he caresses Tommy Lee Jones on the face with his hand, and he says, "Welcome." Actually, maybe we should just play this part.
Oh, wait a minute. No. That's not Miss July.
Little yelps that he's making.
Welcome to the revolution.
And yeah, so Tommy Lee Jones is into it. They're everybody's having a good time, and in a joking kind of voice, Gary Busey says, "It's time for me to go up and see the captain now." So he climbs up the stairs, and he's out of sight for a minute.
I really thought it was funny because when he was talking to Miss July, 1989 or whatever it was, a few minutes before that, when he gave her those random pills, he was like, "All right, you enjoy yourself, get ready. I'm going to go put on my little party dress." And first time watching it, I didn't know he was going to take that so literally.
Yeah. So right now, I mean, we'll clue you in what's going on here in a couple minutes. But at this point, if you didn't know any better, it seems like Commander Gary Busey drugged Miss July so that he could take her place and go and surprise the captain in drag.
Yeah. Some elaborate plan for him to just be like, yeah, I don't even know why.
Yeah, Miss July's not going to show me up.
While all this is going on with Gary Busey and Tommy Lee Jones, is like, it's weird too because he's in the band and he's kind of just doing that one little kind of rap talk song thing he's doing at one point and does nothing else in the rest of the performance. He just kind of stands with the harmonica and dances around, which is really weird to see too because it's Tommy Lee Jones dancing awkwardly. But while this is all going on, it seems like simultaneously he kind of asks everybody who is, like, hey guys, let's get a little round of applause. Like, who's the highest ranking officer here? And this guy stands up. He's like, I'm third in charge here. And he's like, right on, cool, man, that's awesome. So turns around, some other guy just pulls out a gun and just shoots him. And while this happens, Gary Busey pulls off his wig and he shoots the captain, which is a weird twist as well too, but that happened.
And it turns out this whole catering crew is opening fire and taking up the whole ship hostage. They are the terrorists. This was a clever ruse to sneak on the USS Missouri to pose as a catering crew and a rock band. Where do you think they hid all their guns? Like, in the food? Like a big giant bass? I find it funny that they actually went through with cooking all this food. Like, not only these guys are terrorists, but they are also very well-trained cooks.
I mean, maybe they paid a caterer outside of it, then they showed up with the food.
Maybe it was already cooked.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. They're trying to steal these nukes here, and they're worth quite a bit of money. So, if you gotta learn how to make a salmon or something like that, I think it's probably worth the investment. If you're gonna go through with stealing a nuke, anyways, I guess. If you're that crazy, you might as well learn how to flambe, right, or something. I don't know. Make a 3-course meal.
So yeah, they've taken the whole ship hostage. People are dying left and right. They're making the U.S. Navy look pretty damn weak.
That's a fair point. Yeah, it's just like 12 guys in tuxedos took over this whole ship.
Yeah, so meanwhile, Gary Busey is taking this moment to go through the captain's files and read a recent review of Gary Busey's behavior on the boat. And he's like raging about the captain not liking him.
Maybe we should play a clip. And can I just say, like, I'd like to paint everybody a picture of what Gary Busey is wearing right now, okay? Right now, he currently still has on these fake balloon breasts, okay? Still has on a dress. It's a white dress with kind of blue trim around it, and it's got like these navy blue polka dots and stuff, and a red collar on it.
He's dressed like Olive Oil from Popeye.
Yes, that's exactly what he's dressed like, Tim. It's exactly what it is. And he's taken the wig off, and he's just got a stocking cap on now, okay? And he is sitting with lipstick on his face, kind of like the Joker, reading his report about himself. It's an evaluation of himself, is what we're going to find out here. Let's play you a clip.
I recommend that he be given a psychological evaluation before taking over his next assignment. God! Do I look like I need a psychological evaluation?
Not at all.
Oh, yeah. I love how deadpan and serious Tommy Lee Jones is there.
You know, it's also kind of humorous. I can't remember if I read this myself, or maybe this might have been a fact that you brought up one of the many times that we attempted recording this before. But Gary Busey's role in this is that he has sided with the terrorists to help them gain control of this boat, and obviously he wants to benefit in some kind of way too. And that's what his role was originally meant to be, and nothing more. Gary Busey came up with the idea of dressing in drag and going through that elaborate scheme there to dance for the crew and go up and shoot the captain. Which, you know what? Good on him. I love it. It's great.
He looks good in red.
It's certainly added more to this already.
Man, if you weren't paying attention before, when he comes out with those fake breasts on, you're like,
Whoa,
what is going
yeah,
on?
Wow. Take a look at those.
Gary Busey, being Gary Busey. So this, the guy who's in charge of watching Steven Seagal here, they put the whippiest guy, okay, this guy like Private Pile here, in charge of watching Steven Seagal, who is just like this legit assassin in this world here, apparently. The guy who's just super awesome, can do no wrong, super legit. They put the stupidest, wimpiest guy in charge, okay? So he eventually, Seagal eventually convinces Private Pile here to call up and say, hey, like, you heard some gunshots, like, what's going on? So he does it, and he calls up, and Tommy Lee Jones is on the other line, and he goes, yeah, no worries, we'll send someone down, it's all good. So he sends down two guys, and they sneak up on Private Pile here, and they shoot him in the head. They kill him. And so now the plan is they're just going to open up the door and they're just going to waste Seagal. Okay.
And by the way, so while this has all been going on, like while Steven Seagal's been kind of talking to this guy, the guy that was guarding him, he's been like rolling around the floor like nonstop and managed to like Houdini his way out of the handcuffs.
Yeah. They kick open the door here and they start shooting instantaneously into this cooler at nothing. Okay. They see nothing. You can see nothing on the screen, and they start shooting like full clips, wasting them.
Yeah, wasting these skinned pigs and like pieces of meat hanging around.
Yeah, they're shooting bananas and roast beef and stuff. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is crazy. But they do that, and all of a sudden, out of the hatch comes Steven Seagal. He drops the hatch on the one guy, drop kicks the other guy, locks him inside the freezer, and now Seagal is on the loose.
He turns the light switch off, and now he's sneaking around in the dark. Luckily, he has some kind of a really awesome chef's knife, a paring knife or something, I don't know. And he like throws it really quick, and it just hits the guy in the neck perfectly. He can't make a noise. He falls down dead. And then I believe he has like kind of like a Tai Chi battle with the next guy and ends up choking him out. It's like not even a problem for him. This was a breeze. Steven Seagal did not get hit once. He looks like he barely broke a sweat. And now he's starting to, pour a whole bunch of random little liquids and stuff into a cup. And then he places the cup in a microwave.
Yeah, it looks like there's some steel wool in this thing too, Tim. And I guess we're going to find out it's supposed to be some sort of like a jigsaw trap, which the logistics of this one, when this thing happens, we'll come back to it. But he's going to head out now, I think, and run away. And he's kind of grabbed a couple things off these guys that he's murked as well, too. Like a couple of guns and, some ammo and stuff. So he's out there. It's like level 1 where you just kind of get out and you're just in the bottom of the ship now.
By this time, I guess like an F-18 fighter jet wanted to come by and check on the helicopter or something. I'm not sure exactly what the reason they're there for. But nonetheless, Tommy Lee Jones, the terrorist here, he shoots down this F-18. So now the government is well aware of what's going on. So right after that, we see the high-ranking government officials from all different kinds of military, I suppose. And they're at what I believe is the Pentagon. We'll call it the War Room.
Yeah, I guess so. Like in the synopsis, it does say a CIA or ex-CIA something. So I'm assuming it's something to do with the CIA. The CIA are involved somehow in this whole thing. But there's a lot of people in military uniforms with badges and stuff, and people with suits kind of all around a circular table here. And they're patched in to the Missouri here, and they're going to talk to crazy Tommy Lee Jones.
We find out Stranix here, the terrorist, he's a head terrorist, played by Tommy Lee Jones. It's just more fun to say Tommy Lee Jones. So Tommy Lee Jones here, Stranix, is basically cluing us all in, as well as the government officials that he's talking to in the war room here, that he used to be a very high-ranking CIA operative and may have been operating out of North Korea or something. And I guess he ended up just knowing so much that the CIA decided that they needed to neutralize him because something happened where a mission went awry, and they wanted to cover up every aspect of it, which included killing Tommy Lee Jones. However, Tommy Lee Jones killed the assassins that the CIA sent, and he mailed their thumbs back to the office. They asked him, like, what he wants, like, what are your demands? And he has this insane rant that makes no sense. He starts talking about bedlam and chaos consuming the entire room, and says that we only have an inch of topsoil left, and there's sexually transmitted diseases, deforestation, irreversible progressive depletion, and everybody in this room is looking at each other like, what the hell is he talking about? He just kind of basically says, nonetheless, I've got the nuclear codes to shoot these nuclear warheads wherever I want.
So there is a lot going on this ship here, we should mention too. In and amongst all this chaos now, Tommy Lee Jones, I guess these caterers are secretly also, they're cooks, they're musicians, they're also like construction workers because they're welding and they're cutting off giant segments of this ship now. They're cutting off giant I-beams, and they're going to manufacture like a crane and some sort of rail system that they can slide these little nukes off of the ship and then onto a North Korean submarine that conveniently Tommy Lee Jones has stolen.
So Steven Seagal is kind of creeping along with his gun, going room to room here, and he comes into like a kitchen area, I guess, and he slowly walks over to this giant cake, and as he gets really close, he moves the cake, and it like kind of wheels along and bumps into something, and then he turns around and looks at it, and out of the cake busts Miss July, who is in a thong and in a kind of sexy Navy sailor's outfit, and she's topless. We get your typical early 90s action movie breast shot here. And it kind of goes on. She just pops out and she's totally dancing and does the striptease, not realizing nobody else is around her. When she opens her eyes, Steven Seagal is standing in front of her with a gun pointed at her face, like from I don't know, a foot away. What are you doing in that cake? What is this? What is this? What's this about?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Well, I mean, like, it's weird that she started dancing for like 20 seconds with just her eyes closed.
He goes, what do you know? Who do you work for? And he says, I don't know. I just took these pills and then I fell asleep. And next thing I know, I'm in this cake and I'm dancing. He said, what? You don't know anything? You don't remember anything? You didn't see anything? She's like, no, I don't know.
I took some pills and Gary Busey put me in a cake. Help me. But you're right. And so it looks like, what's her name is Jordan, I think is what they call her in this movie.
I like calling her Miss July, but her name is Jordan.
Miss July, Jordan. She's saying, hey, Steve, let me tag along with you because I'm scared. I don't want to be here by myself. And he's like, no. He tries to stuff her in a locker, basically,
yeah,
for a minute. And she freaks out, and rightfully so, right? Steven Seagal puts you in a locker. What's going on here? She's like, no, like, I'm coming with you. And so he's like, all right, you can come with me. And so what we're going to see here now, I guess, sort of almost a weird definition of like the odd couple. This is Steven Seagal and a stripper running around trying to save people on a nuclear submarine. And he goes, you know what? If I'm going to take you with me, I'm going to have to train you a little quickly here on the fly. So he gives her this little quiet gun course in about 20 seconds here, folks. And I want you to hear what Steven Seagal tells this lady, because this is insane.
I'm going to give you this assault rifle. It's an MP5. There's a selector switch on it. One is fully automatic, one is semi-automatic. The definition of semi-automatic is for when you depress the trigger, one round will go off.
We don't need to have him explain that whole thing to the audience. He could just say point and shoot, or like on Game of Thrones, stick him with the pointy end kind of thing, right?
That's pretty good, yeah. Well, I just feel like he could be like, okay, I hit this trigger here. Don't hit that button ever, okay? The definition of semi-auto means that if you press this trigger, one bullet will come out, and that's what is going to happen every time. Okay.
That's all you're going to get. Why does he always sound like he's out of breath? That's all. That's all you're going to get. You're going to get one bullet, and I don't want you to use just that one bullet.
He's always in between bites of food or something. He's like, the definition of semi-automatic. Oh, it's good. Oh, God, it's good.
That's good pie. Tommy Lee Jones here, Skranix, he discovers that his men have been killed by this cook that was locked in a meat locker. Gary Busey explains, like, don't worry about him. He's just a cook. Nobody on this boat, except for the dead captain, have any idea that Steven Seagal is actually a Navy SEALs with, like, every ribbon and decoration you can think of. He's got, like, the Purple Heart, like the highest ranking, as high ranking as you can be.
You know what? Now that you mention it, Tim, he kind of like tells everybody that at the start of the movie, because Steven Seagal walks in to see the captain and Gary Busey is standing right there. And the captain's like, hey, why are you in your uniform? And he goes, not really big into uniforms and celebration, Captain. And then the guy's like, hey, if I had as many ribbons as you do, and if I was as decorated as you were, I'd be wearing those to sleep. So he says that in front of Gary Busey. Where's Gary Busey? I bet you know what Gary Busey was probably thinking. I bet I'm going to wear those red pumps tonight. I want to be a D cup. He's just not paying attention at all.
He's telling Tommy Lee Jones here, like, whatever he did to kill your terrorists, it had to have been a fluke. He got lucky. He's just a cook. And Tommy Lee Jones finds one of these knives that he, like, threw into, like, the other guy's neck. And he's like, just a cook, eh? And then no sooner, they hear, like, a beeping on the microwave. Like, the microwave just turns on suddenly. And they all know. They're like, run! And it explodes. The microwave explodes. It was a bomb. And Tommy Lee Jones knows right away. He is like, he made a makeshift bomb and used the microwave as a detonator. He's like, I want you to get me every file on the personnel on this boat now, because he wants to look into this cook. Tommy Lee Jones is smart. He's also a decorated CIA agent, so former CIA agent. So he knows that he's not dealing with just some East Side Mario's chef here.
Hey, bada boom, bada bing. Get those bada boomers. They're so delicious. Oh, you can eat garlic and a home loaf. I'm a big fan of it. Not a salad guy, though, gotta say. Meanwhile, Steven Seagal is walking around this boat with this girl again, Miss July. She's dressed like 17-year-old Justin Bieber. And they are making their way to the top of the deck here, where like the planes land and stuff. And I guess on board, on the top of this level here, there's like a satellite phone in a box. So Steven Seagal goes out there and he like snaps one guy's neck and like punches somebody in the mouth. And he grabs this box and again stealths around a corner and he throws it inside of a boat. And then he jumps inside the boat. So he's got like this little kind of tent going here and he sets it up or whatever, kind of starts dialing out. It's going beep, beep, boop, boop, beep, beep, doing this little satellite stuff. Then he jumps out of the boat and he goes down to see Justin Bieber again. And he's got a little headset he's going to set up. And he's going to patch in to see the CIA.
You're calling Miss July Justin Bieber, right? Is that what you're...
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
All right.
17-year-old Justin Bieber. That's what I'm saying. She's that, baby, baby.
Yeah, right after that, he makes a makeshift radio type thing and manages to contact the Pentagon War Room. And they're not too happy at first to know that the only one that they can speak to on that boat is a disgraced Navy SEAL. And we find out what happened with Steven Seagal's Navy status, why it was revoked, and now he's a cook, is because he was on a mission with his crew, and he was given some bad intel, and a few of the members of his crew died. And when he got back to shore, Steven Seagal punched his ranking officer in the face, the one who gave him the bad intel. And that apparently was enough to have him stripped of every single title. And maybe that is normal. I don't know. I really don't know much about the consequences of those kinds of actions in the military or Navy. But anyways, the admiral of the USS Missouri felt so bad for Steven Seagal that he was like, you know what? You can just come be the cook. I know that you've been a high-ranking officer for almost 20 years now. You have like one more year before you can like graduate and get your hours or whatever it is. I don't know what more he needs now that he's got a Purple Heart and he has like every ribbon that you can get. But anyways, he's like, you know what? You can just be my cook. You can be my private cook on this boat. And Steven was like, yeah, you know what? That's a good idea. I should cook.
A little too Batman, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a little Batman. The more I do it, I also start accidentally kind of making him sound like Stevie from from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yes.
I will be your cook.
That's right. And the Pentagon, they tell him, hey, we're going to send in a SEAL team. Just hang tight. We'll call you back. We'll call us back in 30 minutes, and we'll see where you're at. So he says, yeah, that's okay. Thanks. And he hangs up. So Steven Seagal and Justin Bieber, they go up to the top deck now where he just was, and they find like a container of paint thinner or something it looks like. And he sets it up on a helicopter on the side of this, like the little lip of the helicopter, and he stabs it with a knife. So now there's just a bunch of this paint thinner running down the side of it. And he just kind of leaves it. And I'm like going, what is he doing now? And all of a sudden there's like the top deck. Someone's like, we see him. There's a guy over the helicopter. So they start shooting down at Steven Seagal. Okay. He runs and just jumps off this boat somehow. And apparently he's got a chain with him, I guess. And the helicopter just explodes randomly. That's it.
It's a massive explosion. He must have rigged up something with that paint thinner, or maybe they shot it by accident. I mean, we're just assuming it's paint thinner. Maybe it was just a weird can of gas. I don't know. It didn't look like a can of gas. But yeah, it was really funny because when he jumps off the boat, he does almost have like some kind of a Batman type device where he is like, he's got a harness and a zip line where he ends up just hanging. It's actually just like in Die Hard when Bruce Willis goes running out of the window right before an explosion, but he wraps one of the a fire hose around his waist and he swings out. And so he kind of like slams in the wall. So it's just like that. Only Steven Seagal slams into the side of the boat and manages to like crawl back onto his side. And Justin Bieber here, Mr. July, is being kidnapped. And Steven Seagal waits for just the right moment, jumps around a corner, and shoots all 4 or 5 of these bad guys. They all have weapons. Nobody can hit him. Like, not even close. So then, man, then... him and Justin Bieber run into this room and they like crank the door behind him because, you know, it's like one of these like heavy duty doors on a boat, right? Probably waterproof. And as soon as he gets on the other side of the door, he has this grenade. It's rigged up in a way that if you were to open this door from the outside, it will pull the pin from the grenade. This is all reminding me of the Wile E. Coyote a little bit.
That's not bad. You know what, though? You think about that too. With that explosion, I feel like it's a heavy-duty vault door. I feel like a lot of that explosion would be inside where he is, and he'd probably be in a lot of danger too. They'd have to run away pretty quickly there. But it's funny too because as it's happening, Tommy Lee Jones sees it from the top. He sees it and he's like, "Don't follow that guy," but he does, and the explosion happens, and he's just like, "Whoa, crazy!" But to me, I'm like, all you saw was Steven Seagal and Justin Bieber go behind that door and close it. You didn't see him rig up the grenade and pull out the pin or set it up or anything. You didn't see any of that. How do you know that he booby-trapped that door? I'm just saying. And also, too, like the helicopter. Like the 2 seconds before when they shot the helicopter, the paint thinner can was on the opposite side that they were shooting. So it's not even like you could shoot the paint thinner thing and somehow ignite that and blow up the helicopter or whatever. Like, that didn't make any sense either.
No, I'm not really sure what happened there. It was just a really big explosion, and there's no more helicopter.
No.
And honestly, I don't know what that even accomplished. Like, I don't know why Steven Seagal needed to run around and blow up the helicopter.
A lot of stuff happening on this boat here. A lot of just kind of the generic action stuff going on here. So we'll sum up some of the stuff. So Justin Bieber and Steven Seagal have gone through the boat now, and they found the kitchen boys. They found them and they rescued them. They said, "Hey guys, what's up?" The one guy, he says, "Grab your tools," okay, which I thought was hilarious. And this guy apparently has a tool pouch right beside him. He just had this tool pouch with him this whole time. Just sat locked in this room with his hands being like, "I don't know how we're going to get out, guys." Because then he uses his tools later. But that's besides the point. So while that's happening, what's happened is Gary Busey has decided to set a trap for Steven Seagal. So he's got a bunch of people, he's got a bunch of crew held hostage on this boat still. And he's decided to flood this compartment. And he's going to just broadcast it to Steven Seagal. And he gets him on all the TVs everywhere and says, "Hey, I don't know where you are in here, but check out the TVs. I've got a bunch of guys that I'm going to murder right now. You should come save them," basically. So he sets a trap for him. So that's what Steven Seagal is going to do. Him and the kitchen boys, they mount up and they're going to go down there and try to save the crew. So they get down into the guts of this place. At one point, again, this is where I thought this was weird with the tools, because the guy who he tells to grab the tools, he's like, hey, there's that valve, go turn it off. And the guy runs to the valve and then with his hands and no tools, just turns the valve off. And he's like, good job. And so they're just shooting people. And that's all that's happening at this point right now. Just some generic stuff. And at one point, like Steven Seagal goes down the hallway doing like Matrix before Matrix, like the crossed arm, kind of 2 guns, shooting people down the hallway thing, which I was like, this is pretty reckless. I feel like a bunch of bullets just ricochet off this entire steel hallway and probably hit you and Justin Bieber. But Steven Seagal is Steven Seagal, and he is killing people left, right, and center here. So one of Steven Seagal's guys gets shot now, and they're kind of patching him up a bit. And in and amongst this, all this chaos, Steven Seagal kind of gets through again to the Pentagon, and they're like, just keep doing it, keep kicking ass. The SEAL team is almost there. Keep going, man. So he's like, all right, thanks. I'll hang on. So he does that while he's trying to fight everybody off. It looks like the SEAL team is finally arriving. And Gary Busey is in a submarine on the side here, on this North Korean little submarine that they have set up. And he shoots down the SEAL team as they're coming in. So that was just useless. So it looks like the Pentagon is just going to say, screw it. You know what? We're going to sink this ship. So they are going to call in an airstrike now, blow up this battleship in the middle of the water before anything else happens now. That's what's happening now. So we've got a race against time. We've got guys getting flooded in a compartment here. We've got Steven Seagal running around trying to stop all this chaos from happening. And we've got Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey still, I don't think he's in a dress anymore, but they're running around and they're trying to offload these nukes onto the submarine.
So while they're offloading the torpedoes here, there's another little trick here that Steven Seagal pulls that I like. And so basically, Steven Seagal, they see him jump into the water, and they just start, these terrorists just start grabbing every kind of anchor and grappling hook they can find and throwing it over the side and pulling it back up. Just, it's like they're trying to catch a Steven Seagal fish. One of the terrorists managed to, I guess, hook Steven Seagal, or at least a portion of his swimsuit or his wetsuit, scuba gear suit. And they're all like really happy because they've got a piece of his suit. They must have cut him and injured him. And they pull it up and they're examining it and ththey're cheering. And then it blows up. He tricked them again. The Wile E. Coyote.
Meep, meep.
Yeah, beep, beep.
Oh, meep, meep.
This is the first time I've seen Steven Seagal show any form of weakness in this movie. He's sitting, not wincing at all. And Justin Bieber here, Miss July, is helping bandage him up a little bit. So after Steven Seagal is all bandaged up here, he remembers that they still have a couple operational torpedoes on the boat. So he rallies the kitchen boys, and they manage to get a torpedo into this particular gun. So as Krill is boarding the submarine, Steven Seagal shoots his torpedoes right in Gary Busey's D cups. And the submarine has been blown up, and Krill is dead. Bye-bye, Busey.
That's right. And now we're going to get some peak Tommy Lee Jones in this movie. He is about to freak out a couple times in a row, which is just tremendous. We get to play a couple clips back to back here. This first rant that Tommy Lee Jones goes on, if anybody could ever explain this complete non sequitur meltdown to me, I would love to know what is this? Let's play a clip, Tim.
All of my life. Saturday morning cartoons. The best.
What? The first time I heard that whole all my life, Saturday morning cartoons. The first time I heard that, I died laughing because I just like, what is this? This is like a Nicolas Cage level freak out. It's just, what is that? That was so random.
I can't explain any of that. And you know what? I feel like there's a chance. Usually whenever I see that kind of stuff in movies, it doesn't really make sense. I bet you Tommy Lee ad-libbed that.
Yeah. That's another reason why I feel like I'm building this case of like, he was just like, it's me and Gary Busey. That's it. You've got Steven Seagal there. What are you going to do?
So Tommy Lee Jones, after he has a Saturday morning cartoons meltdown, he decides that, you know what? If I'm not going to be able to escape the war, I'm just going to do the worst thing I can think of. And he launches a nuke. He launches like 3 nukes, actually, to bomb Honolulu. Now, the only way that they're going to be able to stop them is either the government, on the government side, at the Pentagon, they can send some F-18 fighter jets after these nukes and somehow deactivate them in the air, shoot them down or something. Or if these guys can get to the control bridge, then they can, I guess, shut down the nuke from there. But time is of the essence. There's like approximately 5 minutes, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't really, we don't see a countdown, but we can tell that the pressure's on.
So this brings us to our next clip here, Tim. I'm really excited. Back to back again, just another peak Tommy Lee Jones, just moment sandwiched right here. While he's launching these missiles, he has another little mini, it's not really a freak out. It's, let's play a clip.
This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. And this little piggy, oh mama, oh mama. Wee, all the way
Wow. That was wild. This is quite a performance Tommy Lee Jones has given us in this movie. So there's a nuclear missile on its way to Honolulu right now. It's about 24 minutes until it hits. And Steven Seagal has to get to Stranix because he has the nuclear codes to shut down the missile. Steven Seagal, Justin Bieber, Kitchen Boys, they all head out and they start fighting Stranix's crew on the ship. Lots of gunfight goes on. At one point, Steven Seagal even rips a dude's throat out. It's like Roadhouse. He just legitimately grabs him with his bare hands and rips a throat out. It's amazing. That's a pretty crazy moment in this movie. I was like, damn, that was good. All right. So that was pretty crazy. And what happens is they kind of fight their way up and Seagal gets into the control room and he's one-on-one with Stranix now. And they're going to get into a knife fight. The idea sounds really cool, but some of it is not so, it's kind of lame.
It starts off with Tommy Lee Jones here. He has him with a gun. Like, he got the surprise on Steven Seagal. So he has him beat right now. Steven Seagal has his hands up. And they realize that they actually know each other. Steven Seagal used to work under Skranix back when Skranix worked for the CIA. So, okay. It really has no bearing on the story at this point, but
no.
Yeah, they know each other, so.
There's something.
I don't know, I guess now it's personal. Why would they have a knife fight?
Because he's Steven Seagal and he knows Aikido, I guess. And he just was like, let me do a knife fight with you. And he's like, some of his knife moves, this is why I say it's kind of lame because some of his knife moves look a little sloppy. He was kind of like flopping. I'm like, listen, I'm no knife expert. Don't know anything about knives. I'm sure Steven Seagal could probably kick my ass and all that stuff and blah, 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 whatever. But like Steven Seagal, to finish off Stranix in this movie, okay, folks, he gouges out Tommy Lee Jones' eye. He jams a thumb in there. And you see this like eye and it's just like it's gore and gross. He pulls it out, okay? Then he has a knife and he stabs him in the head, okay? Then he grabs him and he smashes his head into a console, like the glass of it, and that's it. And that was pretty cool. That was a pretty good way to end that. That was like a fatality, like finish him.
Steven Seagal fatality.
Finish him.
Seagality.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's good.
Seagality. Yeah, so even though Skranix is dead, these missiles are still headed for Honolulu. And 2 of the F-18 fighters managed to deactivate 2 of the missiles, except there's still 1 left. So Steven Seagal goes on the computer and the control room at the Pentagon basically walk him through the steps of deactivating the missile. And just for a moment, it seems like it may not make it. And wouldn't you know it, they deactivate it in just the amount of time. Everybody at the Pentagon is like celebrating. They're like, yes, yes. And Steven Seagal is like, hey, make sure you tell the F-18s not to blow the ship up. Hey, you guys, don't blow the ship up. And like nobody's listening until someone's like, oh yeah, stop the missiles.
Oh yeah. Just like a total afterthought. Like, we could get those missiles. But like Steven Seagal did a great job, guys. Look, he stabbed that guy, ripped his eye out.
Everybody's free. The kitchen boys are all good. All the people that were stuck down in the hull of the ship, they're all out. And everybody's super happy. High fives for Steven Seagal everywhere. And there's a doctor there and he says, hey, I'm going to need you to come to the medical room and give you a go over. And Steven Seagal's like, well, I'm kind of afraid of needles. And everybody just laughs. And Steven Seagal's like, you want to see one of my moves? And he turns around and makes out with Miss July. I'm not sure why that happened, but it did. And then we cut to a scene where Steven Seagal is in full Navy SEAL uniform again with all of his ribbons and decorations. And they're probably making new ribbons and decorations just for Steven Seagal for saving this entire ship himself. And it's one of these situations, again, where it's just such a happy ending all around, where you kind of just gloss over the fact that so many people just died. Like, ships were ruined. The USA almost lost track of their own nukes. But hey, it's all right. Steven Seagal's happy. Everybody's happy. That is the end of Under Siege.
Yeah, Tim, that was it. That was Under Siege. I mean, let's talk about it now. What are your thoughts?
I think this is a pretty fun movie. I hazard to say, like we said earlier, that this is probably the best Steven Seagal movie. I'm not sure if we'll go back to the Steven Seagal well again, but we could. If people really want us to, then I probably would, because might be something more fun and worse. But this movie isn't that bad. The thing I dislike the most about this movie, oddly enough, is the fighting and the action. Like, I like the characters. Even as silly of an actor as Steven Seagal is, he is kind of entertaining. Gary Busey's awesome. Tommy Lee Jones is awesome. Everybody else in this is actually pretty cool. But the fighting is just so redundant. Like, there's no stakes to it. Steven Seagal looks like he barely has a scratch. Or it has, like, he's invulnerable to anything. Nothing phases him. There's nothing on the line. So, comparing this to Die Hard again, you see Bruce Willis gradually get more beaten down. By the end of the movie, he can barely walk. In this movie, there's absolutely no progression of like damage taken or anything. Steven Seagal is just awesome, and that's it.
Yeah, that's fair. It's almost like playing like a game on like a video game with like cheat codes or something. You know what I mean, or like on easy difficulty. Yeah, I really think so. And I think like the first half of this movie is fun. The second half of it was a little ridiculous, and honestly, I kind of found it hard. I found it hard to pay attention to what was going on, and even like trying to understand what was happening. Like there's so much stuff with the nuclear missiles and Stranix stealing like a submarine and their past, and then like Seagal kind of like just mumbling stuff in the microphone like this, and like this, all that stuff was really some of that stuff when it goes, it's happening really quickly, so it was really difficult to pay attention to, and I was just like kind of getting frustrated a few times, you know? And yeah, I don't know. It's just, now that we're talking about it, I feel like I enjoyed it more because I'm like, it's fun. At least like I can chit chat with you about this because that part's fun. I don't think I'll ever really watch this again. There's no real desire there to watch this ever. And I kind of hope people don't ever ask us to watch any more Steven Seagal movies because I'm good with this guy and his level of like, you can't see it, folks. I'm doing air quotes, action.
Yeah, I think this is fun, and I think that the movie probably would have worked even a lot better if it just like if Chuck Norris was in the role of Steven Seagal. I think that the movie would be better. Like anyone who is a better action star would probably have made this movie pretty cool. Also, I want to say too, one thing I really like about this movie is like the story. The idea of it is awesome. Terrorists taking over a boat, and I think it's really cool that they actually use a real U.S. Navy vessel for that. Like the movie looks authentic as far as it taking place on a boat, you know, a war boat. It looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's legit. It looks really good. But I was just thinking about this now, and you talking about action stars and all this thing. What if they had given this movie to Stallone when we were just talking about Over the Top? There, you imagine that? Like he would have given the stripper a pep talk and be like, you know, like trying to stop a submarine is hard, and you.
Semi-automatic round is what you're gonna get. You got one round. That means one shot. That's what
you know. I'm just a cook on this ship.
I just a cook.
I'm making hot dogs, grilled cheese.
Get my pies out of the oven. Let's talk about Steven Seagal for a second.
Yes, please.
Just for the fun. I got nothing else to say about this movie, but this guy is so funny. Okay, so did you know that he's banned from Saturday Night Live?
Is he what? What? What did he do?
Yeah, he was a guest host on Saturday Night Live, probably sometime around this movie, and they said he was the worst guest, one of the worst hosts they've ever had, because he took himself way too seriously. He would not allow himself to be in any sketches that the writers wrote for him that made him look weak in any way, which probably would have been a lot of the jokes, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're going on Saturday Night Live, generally you're going to do things where you're a joke on yourself, right? He was having none of it. He even ad-libbed lines to make himself look stronger.
That's amazing. If I was the cast or like the production, I would have gone up to the crew and been like, listen, this is what he thinks is going on in this. He's pulling a Steven Seagal thing. You guys just start ad-libbing stuff back at him now. That's what you're going to do. You're just going to come at him. He's going to think the line is, hey, how are you? And you're just going to come in and be like, so did you see the bowling alley down the road? And then he'll just stand there and won't know what to say to you. Like, and then that would be funny, you know? Like, I would just like throw something at him, do something at him. Like, just crazy. Because then what he's going to punch you on TV?
I found 2 other Steven Seagal stories.
Yes.
You want to hear them?
Yes, please.
Rob Schneider told these stories while he was on the Howard Stern show. And they were all goofing on Steven Seagal. So Rob Schneider was told this story by Keenan Ivory Wayans. And apparently he had a movie with Steven Seagal way back, probably around the same time as Under Siege. And Keenan Ivory Wayans went into Steven Seagal's trailer to basically have a sit down with him. So Steven Seagal comes out. He sits down and he goes, I just got done reading one of the greatest, most breathtaking scripts I've ever read. And Keenan Ivory Wayans is like, oh, really? Cool. Who wrote it? He goes, I did. I don't know if this is from the same day, same session, but Keenan Ivory Wayans was sitting in this trailer, and Steven Seagal comes in, and he goes, I just got anointed by the Dalai Lama, and now he anointed me as being a deity. A deity, in case that wasn't clear. And if you donate enough money to Dalai Lama's charity, then he'll give you some kind of an anointment and make you a deity. So he goes, Steven Seagal's like, ever since I got anointed, I feel a lot more calm, more focused. Things that didn't make sense to me are suddenly making more sense. Things are just falling into place in a very natural kind of way. And I'm feeling an inner peace that I've never felt before. And then I guess like his agent came in and was like, hey, Steven, your ex-wife says that she's keeping the kids for the weekend. And Steven Seagal's like, you tell that bitch that he better drop those kids off in the next 2 hours or I'll break her legs. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
So yeah, that's a story. Those are stories told by Rob Schneider from the Howard Stern show.
I honestly didn't see the story going there. I thought it was just about him being such a goof and paying for this thing and just being a clown. And yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, all the stories about Steven Seagal, these are not glowing stories about this man. You know, this is not a good picture we're painting of this man. I do have one more story, but I think we'll close with this. I just want to say before we do that, you know, it's been 2 full seasons or 2 full years of the podcast now. Tim and I want to say thank you very much. I don't really think we both expected this to get to 2 years. So we really appreciate everybody listening, all the new people, all the people who've been listening since day one. Really appreciate it. Everybody in Canada, everybody in the States, everybody in Japan, Poland, you know, Australia. Thank you, everybody.
All around the world. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, all the countries, Germany, you guys are all really nice. We thank you. We see all the stuff. England, yeah, everyone, thank you so much. Yeah, all the countries, thank you so much. You're all out there, and we're all beautiful, and we love you, and thank you for listening. And just, you know, it really brings a lot of joy to me and Tim when we see that, because honestly, we bust our butts doing this stuff, and sometimes we catch heat from our loved ones too for putting time into this too, and that's fair as well. It's also just for fun, but we really appreciate it, guys. So thank you for 2 full years of this. This has been really fun. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, a sincere thank you, everyone. It means the world to us. Can't thank you enough.
So before we go, I'm going to tell a little story here, and we'll kind of cap it off with this. We have another Steven Seagal story. So in our findings on the internet, I came across my favorite best friend, Freddie Prinze Jr. He was on a podcast. And I can't believe I missed this because I'm such a hardcore FPJ fan, folks. It disappointed me a little bit that this had just gone out there, and especially tied in so well with what we're doing. Just disappointed me. But we found it. And So Freddie Prinze Jr. was on a podcast and he was telling them a story from Under Siege. So I guess FPJ at this point was just a little kid, and his uncle is quite a famous Hollywood stunt coordinator. And he was working on Under Siege. Turns out in the movie, this is all what Freddie Prinze Jr. told the guys, that Steven Seagal really wasn't pulling any of these punches. He was actually like hitting the stuntman really hard, and they were taking it, and they were getting pretty upset about it because obviously you're getting punched. Like, this guy's punching you and kicking you and all that. Like, someone's fake ripping your throat out. It's gotta hurt, right? So I guess, at one point he kind of had some words. This guy had some words with Steven Seagal, and Steven Seagal said, like, whatever, like, get stuff kind of thing, right? So FPJ's uncle, he looked at his partner beside him and was like, hey, man, you better hold my clipboard and all this stuff. I'm going to get fired here right now. The guy's like, what are you talking about? And I'm not going to finish the story, but Freddie Prinze Jr. is going to take you out, and he's going to finish the story for you.
And he walks up to Steven, front chokes him, yanks him in, rips him up like this, and Steven pissed his pants and dropped to the ground. All these guys called Steven out on the cover of Black Belt magazine and said, we think you're bullshit. We all want to fight you. And it was all because of this Under Siege incident. And he said, well, I only fight to the death. And all of them, Gene first said, okay. And he never fought one of them.